Christy Sills, and I am with Arts in McNairy, and it is my distinct pleasure today to be here and do one of the inductions for a great group for the McNairy County Music Hall of Fame. A whole new generation of McNairy County youth is familiar with the name Latta. When they hear the name, they are most likely to associate it with the property situated at the corner of West Court Avenue and North 4th Street in downtown Selma. Most precisely, they think of the cultural experiences that they've enjoyed and what is now affectionately referred to as the Latta. They say things like, I saw an incredible band at the Latta last weekend. What they may not know is that the name Latta and those words, I saw an incredible band last weekend at the Latta, could just as easily been spoken by their grandparents or their great-grandparents' generations. Most of them probably don't realize that more than 70 years ago, the name Latta identified a prominent local family, the same property at 205 West Court Avenue, and outstanding band all at once. To be fair to the younger generation, many of their elders may know the story of Earl Latta's successful Ford dealership in downtown Selma, and may even have heard that he hosted music events on the property. But the band that is most responsible for the success of those shows has not yet been fully acknowledged or appreciated. That band was called the Latta Ramblers, and this is their story. Earl Latta was an amateur musician and a devoted music fan, but he was first and foremost a savvy businessman. As it turns out, he was an early industry leader in what is now known as retail entertainment. He knew that one of the best ways to get the attention of a customer was to offer quality entertainment that would draw the public into his place of business and create positive associations with his products. In mid-century McNairy County, it could only mean one thing: live music. For that, he turned to a group of musicians who styled themselves the Latta Ramblers in order to further accentuate the connection between Latta's business and the free music it offered its potential buyers. But make no mistake, the Latta Ramblers were not cheap salespeople or cheesy jingle writers, not even close. They were, in fact, one of the most assemblages of musical talent McNairy County has ever had in the 1940s and 50s. From the very beginning, Tom McCormack, Paul Taylor, Eunice Smith, and Rob Richards were the core members of the Latta Ramblers. Other players came and went, and the band was well known to have top-notch instrumentalist or vocalist sit in for a set or two at the Latta Jamborees. But these four, each gifted musicians in their own right, were the heart and the soul of the Latta Ramblers. Tom McCormack, like his father, Granville McCormack, before him, was a mechanic for Latta Motors. That gave him the inside track on Earl Latta's musical weekend jamborees. And McCormack was instrumental in handling the logistics of these shows. As a matter of fact, in just a matter of hours, he was responsible for converting a dealership's auto service area into a performance hall to accommodate hundreds of audience members. Of course, by Monday morning, it was back to a functional garage space again, and he oversaw that too. But McCormack was far more than a stage manager. He was a talented guitarist, and he was the founding member of the Latta Ramblers, who used his musical contacts to help book other acts for the jamborees and coordinate the show's lineups. After the untimely death of Latta Rambler member Rob Richards, McCormack sought to fill the void left by the loss of the area's most respected bassist. In a demonstration of his versatility as both mechanic and musician, he retrofitted an old Silvertone guitar into an electric bass and joined the Chickasaw Ramblers, Hall of Famer Pat Whitten's legendary dance band. For almost a quarter century, that version of the Chickasaw Ramblers became the most loved band in the region, anchoring square dances at Finger, Leapwood, and Chewally in McNairy County, 5 Points in Madison County, and Hardin County Fairgrounds in Savannah. Eunice Littlejohn Smith, the sister of Hall of Famer Stanton Littlejohn, was already a veteran of the musical scene when she joined the Latta Ramblers on accordion. The exceptionally gifted Smith had adapted her own original accordion style to accompany old-time string bass music, band music to great effect. She could play it like a rhythm instrument or double the fiddle lead, note for note. Smith had honed those skills as a young woman playing radio broadcasts with Waldo Davis and the McNairy Ramblers, as well as several other popular bands in the region. She was also in demand virtually all of her adult life as one of the best pianists. Many of her brother Stanton's audio recordings from the late 1940s and the early 50s reveal that Smith was a musician with astonishing range and an ability to play nearly any genre of music on demand. Some years later, she would join fellow Latta Ramblers member Tom McCormack in Pat Whitten's Chickasaw Ramblers, where the piano technique she adapted for square dance music was as original and influential as her accordion style. Paul Taylor, the Latta Ramblers' second guitarist, was, like McCormack, employed by Latta Motors, managing the tractor and implement division. In that role, he worked with McCormack to set up and tear down for the garage jamborees and to oversee the administration of the shows. And like Smith, Taylor had cut his teeth as a performer working on road and radio gigs with Waldo Davis. Taylor's life and amateur musical career were tragically cut short by an automobile accident in 1957, but not before he left his mark on his family, friends, and the audiences who revered his outstanding musical abilities. Finally, Rob Richards was the bassist for the Latta Ramblers, and what a bassist he was. Richard played with virtually every important musician in Southwest Tennessee and North Mississippi over the course of an impressive 35 years in music. Appropriately, Richards is being inducted in the Hall of Fame this year as an individual artist, so we will refer you to his induction remarks for a fuller accounting of his contributions, but suffice to say, more than 50 years after his passing, he is still regarded as McNairy County's preeminent bass fiddle player. Tedford Jordan sometimes joined the Latta Ramblers on banjo. Evelyn Say regularly added her accordion skills to the mix or sat in for Eunice Smith. James Lambert and Hall of Famer Arnold English also played fiddle for the Ramblers, and Curtis White was another known collaborator. But the core group was always McCormack, Smith, Taylor, and Richards. With the exception of Earl Latta himself, the Latta Ramblers were more responsible than anyone for the storied Latta Ford Motor Company jamborees. They were the manpower and the musical foundation for those shows. Quite simply, without them, there would have been no show. They set a pattern of community music making, and their monumental achievements, even to this day, reverberate through two generations of local and regional musicians they influenced. Maybe just as importantly, the Latta Ramblers doubled as a session band for the Stanton Littlejohn recordings. Their close association with Littlejohn put them in a position to play in support of some of the region's acknowledged masters. The Latta Ramblers can be heard on a number of Littlejohn's best sides, backing many artists such as Arnold English, Virgil Murray, Waldo Davis, Pat Whitten, and others. These recordings are widely regarded as cultural treasures of national significance, as evidenced by investment in their presentation by the American Folklore Center, Library of Congress, Tennessee Arts Commission, Folklife Program, and the Center of Popular Music at Middle Tennessee State University. In the county rich with traditional music, the Latta Ramblers were truly something special. Individually and collectively, they set a standard of professionalism rarely seen among amateur musicians. In their own time, they established themselves as some of the best loved live performers in McNairy County, and through the recordings of Stanton Littlejohn, they bequeathed a legacy of unparalleled musical excellence in future generations. To circle back to the opening remarks, in 1950 when someone said, "I saw an incredible band at the Latta this weekend," more often than not, they meant the Latta Ramblers. It is my distinct honor to induct the Latta Ramblers into the McNairy County Music Hall of Fame for the class of 2020.
Folks, the next tune we're going to play for you for the Latta Ramblers is another tune that back during the 50s, around the 50s, up through the 50s, early 60s, was a pretty popular square dance tune that the Latta Ramblers played in different places. And again, my dad, Ernest Whitten, and Arnold English, both square dance fiddle players, and they would always play this tune, and it's called Liberty. But I also want to tell you a little story about some of the instruments you're seeing here on the stage. Over on the right, Rudy playing right now, is a guitar that belonged to my father-in-law, Tom McCormack, who was a member of the Latta Ramblers. This is the guitar Tom was playing in all the pictures that were taken here at the Latta in 1950. We found this guitar in the basement. Bryce and I worked on it, restored the guitar. Here it is back again today, playing in the Latta building. And I think that's pretty cool, I really do. And again, we've got Rob's bass, Rob Richards, who played with the Latta Ramblers a long time until he had to quit himself. This is the bass that he owned when he died, sure was. He got this bass around 1960 and played it up at 5 Points. He played it everywhere he went. And we're honored to have the bass with us today to honor the Latta Ramblers and Rob's. Another little story, the fiddle that Daniel's playing today also played in this building in 1950. It belonged to my dad, Ernest Pappy Whitten, who again is a former inductee. And this is the fiddle that he played here. He got this fiddle back in the mid-40s, and it was played right here too. It's also in the picture of all the musicians for the Latta building. So this fiddle and this guitar have actually played together in the Latta building here. So we're going to do a tune for you now that the Latta Ramblers would have played and probably been played in this building several times. It's called Liberty. Folks, this next tune that we want to do for you is a tune that goes back, I know, around 1950, and it was actually recorded at Stanton Littlejohn's about that time. And the recording, there was a question on the front end, actually, which fiddle player was playing this tune, and it's just called the theme. It never had a real name to it. I know my dad adopted it and played it over the years at the end of every square dance he ever played. And there's also Arnold English, who was another fiddle player that did a little different style with it. But they never did name the tune. But anyway, we want to include it on here because Rob, Eunice, and the Latta Ramblers, Tom McCormack, always played this tune when they played with the Chickasaw Ramblers, my dad. So we're going to close out this portion today with what we call a theme. I'm going to attempt to do this, but it doesn't. Tribute to the Latta Ramblers this time, and we did a couple of tunes earlier, and this is a tune that was also recorded down at Stanton Littlejohn's by his sister Eunice Smith. Eunice was an accordion player and a piano player, and they actually have this tune recorded, and she used to play it at the square dances with my dad, and it was a tune that was pretty fast, and the dancers used to do something called the drag or something, Rudy, I can't remember. Yeah. But anyway, but we want to try it for you now, and Rob played this, Rob Richards, who we've been talking about, also played with Eunice Smith on this, and we hope you recognize this. It's called On the Caribbean, and I hadn't thought of this tune in years till the other day, and I looked it up and started working on it, so hope you enjoy it. I'm a mighty man. I got the news, everybody rocking tonight.